Welcome in to Texans Today, everybody. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs, and coming up on today's show, I'm going to take a look at the biggest winners and losers for your Houston Texans after their first preseason game up against the Minnesota Vikings. And I know it's only the preseason, and it's week one of the NFL preseason, and I would say 80% of the Texans starters did not play in this game. But we can still evaluate who played well and who had a rough outing in Minnesota. If you missed the game, well, you should have tuned in to our live watch party. Another reason why you got to hit that subscribe button. We were live for all the action during Saturday's contest, but the Texans, they ended up losing 20-10 to Minnesota. Obviously, you see some of the top stat getters at the bottom of your screen. Some of those guys we'll talk about in today's program. But I want to know, before I even tell you any of my winners from that game, who was your biggest winner for the Texans up against Minnesota? Who proved the most to you in this first preseason matchup? Let me know down in the comment section. I don't have my winners ranked. I just have 5 winners on today's video that I think played really well and, looked really good for the Texans. So let me know down in the comment section. Who do you think is the biggest winner for the Houston Texans? All right, first up, I'm going to cheat right off the bat. I'm just going to go the starting offensive line. Looked really good for the most part. I would say the majority of the starting offensive line looked good. And we didn't see 3 of the guys who I think are, penciled in to start. Titus Howard did not play. Laken Tomlinson did not play. Cam Robinson did not play. They moved in Ariante Ursery to the left side. He looked really good in that first drive. Also, they put in Juice Scruggs at left guard. Was not bad. Ed Ingram went up to right guard, and then Blake Fischer was the right tackle. And I think that first drive, the way they were able to run the ball was really effective. This coming in from Davis Mills right after the game. We challenged them, speaking about the Texans offensive line, we challenged them to go out there and pound the rock, and we were able to drive straight down the field. And they did just that. The lone Texans touchdown came in that very first drive where Davis Mills was the quarterback. The Texans were running the ball really well, and they were able to move the ball down the field very efficiently for an opening touchdown. Daria Gumbawale was the running back for that first team, and he got 5 carries for 29 yards. Very effective, very efficient in the run game. I don't think they had a singular run that went for less than 4 yards in that opening drive. The Texans offensive line, their aggression was very, very well noticed in that very first drive. Now, not everybody did well on the offensive line, but I'm just going to lump up the unit as a whole for right now. We'll get into somebody who I think might be on the losing side of this preseason game later on in the program. Let's go to another winner, though. Braxton Berrios, wide receiver. I thought he looked really good. He had a really solid connection with Keaton Slovis. He had like 3 or 4 out routes that it was just perfect timing, caught the ball, got a couple first downs on a drive that I believe led to a field goal. He looked really good, and I think he's a winner because he looked good not only in the receiving game, but he had multiple opportunities at punt and kick return. And I've told y'all before on the channel, when you're looking at the final guys on the roster, the guys who are going to be wide receiver 5, 6, 7 on this team, maybe even like running back 4, 5, defensive back, 5, 6, 7, you have to contribute to special teams. So the fact that they're getting Braxton Berrios not only out with the wide receivers and getting him involved in that way, but also giving him reps at the kick return and punt return spots, I think that is a very good sign for Braxton Berrios to possibly make this team. I would give it his odds about a 75% chance to make the roster if I had to guess right now. Let's go to another winner. I'm going to go with another wide receiver in Jaylin Noel. Now, he only had 2 catches. And I think he's a winner because, one, he made the most out of those 2 catches. I thought he looked really good. He had a screen that went for a first down where he could have easily gotten tackled in the backfield, broke a couple tackles, and dove for a first down. And he had another catch as well. Jaylen Null looked really good. I'm really excited to see the rookie out of Iowa State. And then also, he really didn't play towards the end of the second quarter, the second half. He didn't play at all. That's a good sign. Obviously, Jaylen Null, I didn't think his roster spot was in danger at all. But it shows you that they have a plan for Jaylen Null to be maybe a decent part of this offense once the season gets going. I think him and Christian Kirk working in the slot, both those guys are going to be very effective in this Nick Caley offense. Now, let's go to the defensive side of the football for a winner. And this is the only defensive player that I have as a true winner in this game. It's E.J. Speed. I thought E.J. Speed looked fantastic. He was playing fast up against the Minnesota Vikings. And whenever I, looked at EJ Speed, whenever I looked at his, play from this game, you could tell whenever the, first, second unit were out there, he was the leader. He was the leader amongst the pack, and he looked like he was obviously the best defender out there. He was guarding really good in coverage. He was able to knife through for a couple tackles as well. I expect EJ Speed to make this roster, and I expect him and Christian Harris to be the main backups for Henry Toto and Azeez Al-Shaair if those two guys end up starting week 1 for this Texans team. And my last winner, not really a singular player, but just overall the Texans, their health. Whenever you're playing preseason games, the one thing you don't want is anybody getting injured. And thank the Lord the Texans didn't have any injuries up against the Minnesota Vikings preseason week 1. Knock on wood if you're with me. Make sure you're knocking on wood, doing whatever you need to do to get the good juju flowing. Because after the C.J. Gardner-Johnson injury scare that we had this week as Texans fans, I don't think my little heart could take another Texans injury going into the preseason. So I'm so glad no injuries from this first preseason game. That makes this whole Texans roster a winner in my book. The fact that nobody got injured in this game. Now, coming up, I do have some losers from this very first game as well. Before we get into that, though, if you need a brand new Texans jersey, we got you covered here at Chat Sports. All you got to do, go to chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. Get a new jersey in time for the regular season. You can get C.J. Stroud. They have Nico Collins, Jalen Petrie, Will Anderson, all different shapes and sizes available right now. Just go to this link. It's chatsports.com/Texans jerseys. That link will be in the comment section and description of today's video. Go check it out today. Get a Texans jersey before the season starts so you can rep your team out at the bars, at games, wherever you're going. Make sure you're outfitted with some new Texans gear. All right, I mentioned the offensive line being winners. Blake Fischer. He was the one part of that first drive where you're just kind of shaking your head. You're like, dude, I was hoping I was wrong. I was hoping he wasn't struggling as much as everything I'd heard, everything I'd seen. But it was obvious whenever the Texans were going up against the Vikings. Blake Fischer, team does not have a lot of confidence in him. He got worked multiple times, was a little bit of a turnstile. Also, reminiscent of last year, the lone penalty in the first quarter or the first drive for the Texans, false start by Blake Fischer. He, Aaron Ursery's already passed him. Zach Thomas did not play well. He could have easily been a loser as well. But the fact that Blake Fischer went from somebody who started games for this Texans team last year to now, I don't even know if he's the main backup that would come in if somebody got injured. That makes him a loser in my book. But I want to know from you, what is the biggest area of concern for the Texans right now? Is it the backup offensive line? Is it the offensive line in general? Or is it somewhere else? I might have another concern more than the offensive line coming up at my third loser in this game. Let me know yours down in the comment section, your biggest area of concern. Number 2, I had to put the rookie Graham Mertz. I mean, whenever you look at this game, the second half was just dominated by the fact that the Texans had 3 turnovers, 3 INTs from Graham Mertz. He was kind of very reckless with the ball. Multiple interceptions were just sailed over receivers. One was a couple yards behind. It was not a pretty day for Graham Mertz. Keaton Slovis looked better than him. Obviously, Davis Mills looked fantastic in that one drive that he had. But the second half was just kind of, it looked like a middle school football game with the amount of sloppiness that was played there. Graham Mertz, not trying to dog on him, the rookie out of Florida. I kind of mentioned in our pregame show, and I mentioned during the live watch party, he was injured last year in Florida. He only played a handful of games before he got injured. DJ Lagway took over for the Gators, and I think that lack of experience is coming to bite him in the you-know-what. The fact that he doesn't have a lot of skins on the wall, he doesn't have a lot of experience, it really showed up against the Minnesota Vikings. And lastly, this might be my biggest area of concern for the Houston Texans, the backup secondary. And they looked like they were going in the right direction at the beginning of the offseason, right? They signed Ronald Darby, and we were like, oh, finally, the Texans have a legitimate backup option. They have some good depth in the secondary. And he retired. And from that, the Texans haven't made a ton of moves. They haven't done anything to really give me more confidence. They went out and signed Damon Arnett, who hasn't played in the NFL since 2022. He had a penalty. He looked okay. Arthur Mollett you signed, who he didn't really have an amazing game either. I think the backup secondary is still a concern for me. Jalen Smith looked decent. He had some ups and downs during the game. D'Angelo Ross was okay. Traymon Smith was okay. But what really worries me with this Texans secondary, and we kind of got a taste of it earlier this week, if one of those 5 guys that you see on screen goes down, Stingley, Gardner Johnson, Petrie, Bullock, or Lassiter, I don't have a ton of confidence in the guys that are behind them. I think the secondary depth is a sneaky concern for this Texans team and something that they might have to address through free agency this offseason before we get into the regular season. Now, that's all I have for you for today's show, folks. Hit me up on Twitter at Jeremy Chuggs if you want to continue the conversation. You can also make sure you hit that subscribe button. If you made it to the end of the video, obviously we're doing something right. Go down and hit that sub button for free Texans videos all year long.